I was like, who is that? The House will come to order. Thank you, Father, for that prayer. Please join Representative Basenecker in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Gregorio, please call the roll.
Representatives Amabile, Bacon, Baisley, Benavidez. Representative Benavidez. Representative Benavidez is excused. Burnett, Byrd, Bockenfeld.
He's stuck in traffic.
Representative Bockenfeld is excused. Basenecker, Bradfield. Representative Bradfield. Representative Bradfield is excused. Caraveo, Carver, Catlin, Cutter, Doherty, Duran, Escar, Exum, Froelich, Geithner. Representative Geithner. Gonzalez Gutierrez, Gray, Hanks, Herod, Holtorf, Hooten, Jackson, Judah, Kennedy, Kipp, Larson, Lontine, Luck, Lynch, McCluskey, McCormick, McKean. Representative McKean. Representative McKean is excused. McLaughlin.
Present.
Michael Sinjane. Mullica. Neville.
Here.
Ortiz. Pelton. Pico. Representative Pico. Representative Pico is excused. Ransom. Rich. Ricks. Roberts. Sandridge. Sirota. Snyder. Soper. Sullivan. Tipper. Titone. Valdez. Representative Valdez A. is excused. Valdez D. Van Bever. Van Winkle. Weissman. Will. Williams. Woodrow. Woog. Young. And Mr. Speaker.
With 61 present, or 61 present and 4 excused, we have a quorum. Representative Basenecker.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Journal of Monday, May 3, 2021 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
Members, you have heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it. The motion is adopted. Announcements and introductions. Representative Weissman.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Judiciary Committee members, this is an announcement for our business today starting at 1:30 p.m. We will do House Bill 1120, followed by Senate Bill 30 for action only, Senate Bill 64 for action only, Senate Bill 162, and Senate Bill 171. We're in the big room over here, a.k.a. Old State Library, a.k.a. 271 today instead of 107. See you at 1:30.
Representative Exum.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Honored to serve with you, sir.
Honored to serve with you, Representative Exum.
Thank you. Members of House Transportation Local Government Committee, this afternoon, the LSBA will hear SJR 2119 by Representative Pelton Hotorf, House Bill 1289 by Kennedy and Baisley, and you will hear a bill from me, House Bill 1278. And we may switch mine going second, but I'll let you know this afternoon. Be there, 1:30, LSBA. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Exum. Representative Montine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Health and Insurance Committee. There's no committee meeting today. Thank you.
Representative Michelson-Jeannet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Public and Behavioral Health and Human Services, don't get excited. I don't have that same announcement. Okay, we will be meeting at 1:30 in room 112, where we will be hearing Senate Bill 22 with Snyder and McKean, Senate Bill 101, Caraveo and Williams, Senate Bill 39, Caraveo and Pelton.
Representative Froelich.
Colleagues, it's a very important day, and we hope that May the 4th be with you.
It's just a matter of time. Representative Durian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Capitol Choir, can you come on down? We have a birthday today.
Very important birthday. Come on
Very
down.
important birthday.
Capitol Choir.
Where is our majority leader?
She's in the back talking to Sharon.
Majority Leader Esgar.
Capitol Choir, majority leader. Sorry.
Start it.
Ready. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Linnea. Happy birthday to you.
Very special birthday to Madam Majority Leader. Representative Herod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we had an enlightening and exciting Appropriations Committee this morning, and I am here to announce the winner of our appropriations joke. The winner must come down and deliver their joke to the floor. And the winner this morning is Representative Benavides. Come on down.
Not sure what the odds were, but I'm just joking. I'm just joking. All right, I'm excited to hear it. I'm excited to hear it.
Well, the person that gave me this joke said it's all in the delivery. And since I can't sing and my co-prime tells me she can't dance, I used something that I think all of us have in abundance. So here's the joke. What do you call cheese that doesn't belong to you?
I know that.
Nacho cheese.
Hold on. And your appropriations prize this morning is some Pueblo salsa to go with your nachos.
All right. Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the permission of the majority leader, I have asked to be excused the afternoon of Wednesday the 5th as well as Friday the 7th.
So approved. Thank you, Representative Jackson. Majority Leader Eskar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know if I need to file a proper grievance, but, the Pueblo salsa I gave was just regifted as a prize. And I'm not sure how to feel about that, Representative Herod, but we'll chat. We'll chat.
Fair point. Representative hold on, Representative D. Valdez. Representative Herod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam Majority Leader, I felt like the salsa was just too good for me to keep to myself. That is prize-winning salsa that Representative Benavidez worked very hard to earn, and hopefully she will have some this morning. Thank you to Pueblo.
Out of fairness to both sides, that didn't sound like an announcement, but Representative D. Valdez. Members, we have a tribute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's an honor to serve with you.
Honored to serve with you as well, Representative Valdez.
Members, I bring forth to you a tribute.
State of Colorado, the Senate and House of Representatives convened in the 73rd General Assembly hereby extend sincere commendations to Adams State University on its centennial celebration. The Colorado General Assembly hereby recognizes the 100-year anniversary of the establishment of Adams State University as the Year of Adams State. Adams State University was established in 1921 as Alamosa State Normal School via legislation introduced by Colorado legislator and later Governor Billy Adams, for whom the school was renamed in 1925. A key educational institution in the city of Alamosa and the entire San Luis Valley, Adams State has educated thousands of community leaders, bankers, accountants, business owners, doctors, attorneys, farmers, ranchers, and more importantly, teachers. The first federally designated Hispanic serving institution in the state of Colorado, Adams State University has more than 3,000 students enrolled and offers 27 bachelor's degree programs, 9 master's degree programs, and 1 PhD program. The Adams State University cross-country and track and field programs have garnered an international reputation and have brought Olympians to the city of Alamosa to train. Adams State has remained grounded in its original mission of providing students in rural and remote areas such as the San Luis Valley with an exceptional education and personalized attention that allows them to succeed. The Colorado General Assembly congratulates Adams State University on the celebration of the 100-year anniversary of its establishment and the Year of Adams State. On request of Representative Donald E. Valdez and Senator Cleve A. Simpson, given this 4th day of May, 2021, State Capitol, Denver.
Representative D. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Jared Gregorio, for reading the tribute today. Members, you may please be seated. Thank you. Members, it is a true honor to bring this tribute forward, and it is an honor to be here. I want to thank Adams State. At the time when I went to stepped in and opened the doors, it was Adams State College, when I received my first 2 degrees. I went back and received my master's at Adams State University. And I want to thank Adams State for bringing me here to the Capitol. For if it wasn't for Adams State Alumni Day here at the Capitol, I don't know when I would have walked into this historic, monumental, our state capitol. And it was people that I call friends that not only opened the doors, but people who believed in me. But with this tribute, it's not about me. It's about the people in southern Colorado, people in Colorado. Going back to 1921, at the time it was legislator Billy Adams who brought this tribute forward. Not only this tribute, but this institution. And at that time it was called Adams State Normal School, where I had family that attended and received their teacher's degree. I come from a family of teachers, farmers, ranchers, community leaders that have attended Adams State and are proud of where we come from. You know, and Adams State, I'll tell you one thing, they not only open their doors, but you know the professors by name. They know who you are and where you come from, and they want to see you prosper, be successful. Adams State is a unique place. Some people say it's
too cold there in Alamosa. I told him, it is cold, but that's part of the San Luis Valley, because sometimes we're called the coldest place in the nation. But as the Adams State continues to grow with bachelor's degree, master's, and PhDs, and one of the top national cross-country track and field programs in the world, from coaching staff to the athletes, and I know some of your family and your friends have attended Adams State University. And I thank you for sending them and encouraging them to attend Adams State. So with that, members, I thank you, but also on your desks are a calendar of the 100 years of Adams State University. And it has come many ways to continue to be what they are and what they continue. And I want to thank the General Assembly for their continued support. And those who have visited Adams State, from JBC to Capital Development, and those in your own time have visited Adams State, thank you. Because it is important that we make sure that a higher education institute, not only for individuals to attend a university, from the Hispanic Serving Institute, but also reaching out to all diversity of people, is unique in many ways. And with that, please enjoy your calendars. And if you do not have a use for your calendar, please let me know, because I do have many other people who have uses for them. So with that, thank you, members, for your time.
Thank you, Representative D. Valdez. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Valdez, for bringing this tribute. As a neighbor to Adams State, I've known about Adams State my entire life. I have friends who went there. I have friends who have received their graduate degrees from there. But it really wasn't until I served in this body on CDC and also on JBC, and I actually got to go and tour the campus. And it's not just about the campus in Adams State. It's about what that campus brings to the entire community. And it's something that I think we forget about when we talk about higher education in this body. And it's something I would encourage you all to think about, the impacts that an institution like Adams State has on an entire part of our state that is often forgotten about. So I'm celebrating with you. I've already got my pin on. Thanks for giving us these pins on our desks as well. Celebrating the 100 years of Adams State, and appreciate you bringing this tribute. Thank you.
Seeing no further announcements or introductions, the next order of business is third reading of bill's final passage. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of the House Bill 1237.
House Bill 1237 by Representatives Lantina and Rich, also Senators Kirkmeyer and Moreno, concerning the creation of a competitive pharmacy benefits manager marketplace.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1237 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1237 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Those participating remotely, Representative Neville, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Neville votes no. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 52 aye votes, 11 no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1237 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of the House Bill 1267.
House Bill 1267 by Representatives Lantina and Larson, also Senators Heisey and Story, concerning a Board of County Commissioners optional delegation of the administrative duty to certify mill levies.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1267 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1267 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Neville, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Neville votes no. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 50 aye votes, 13 no votes, and 2 excused, House Bill 1267 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 143.
Senate Bill 143 by Senator Gardner, also Representatives Tipper and Snyder, concerning the Uniform Collaborative Law Act.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 143 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 143 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Neville, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Neville votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 62 aye votes, 1 no vote, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 143 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 226.
Senate Bill 226 by Senator Moreno, also Representative McCluskey, concerning an increase in the general fund reserve.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 226 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 226 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Neville, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Neville votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, no votes, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 226 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 8.
Senate Bill 8 by Senator Simpson, also Representatives Valdez D. and Holtorf, concerning removing the word junior from the name of certain colleges.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 8 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 8 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Neville, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Neville votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 61 aye votes, 2 no votes, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 8 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 198.
Senate Bill 198 by Senators Smallwood and Rodriguez, also Representatives Roberts and Bockenfeld, concerning the repeal of a requirement that the state auditor annually report use of state education fund money for school capital construction to certain committees of the General Assembly.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 198 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 198 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Neville, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Neville votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 62 aye votes, 1 no vote, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 198 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to Senate Bill 17.
Senate Bill 17 by Senators Heisey and Zenziger, also Representatives Larson and Bradfield, concerning sexual contact between a student and an educator in violation of the public trust.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 17 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 17 on third reading and final passage. See no further discussion. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Neville, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Neville votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. 61 aye votes, 2 no votes, and 2 excused. Senate Bill 17 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of Senate Bill 160.
Senate Bill 160 by Senator Gardner, also Representative Snyder, concerning certain administrative clarifications to local government election codes.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 160 on third reading, final passage.
Question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 160 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Neville, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Neville votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 62 aye votes, 1 no vote, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 160 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, reports of committees of reference.
Committee on Appropriations, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends following. House Bill 1077 be amended as follows and be so amended, be referred to the Committee on Legislative Counsel with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1150 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1162 be amended as follows and be so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1171 be amended as follows and be so amended, be referred to the Committee on Legislative Counsel with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1232 be amended as follows and be so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1234 be amended as follows and be so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1265 be amended as follows and be so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1270 be amended as follows and be so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1271 be amended as follows and be so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1285 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 92 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 100 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 147 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Finance, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends following. House Bill 1266 be amended as follows and be so amended, be referred to the Committee of the, on Appropriations with favorable recommendation.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the following bills be made special orders on May 4th, the best day of the year, at 9:34 a.m. Don't rush up here, folks. There's going to be sheets available. Here we go. House Bill 1234, House Bill 1270, Senate Bill 188, House Bill 1271, Senate Bill 247, House Bill 1238, Senate Bill 92, Senate Bill 100, Senate Bill 147, House Bill 1265, House Bill 1262, House Bill 1285, House Bill 1150, and House Bill 1274. I said 1262, it's 1162.
Seeing no objection, the motion to make those special orders on May 4th at 9:34 a.m. is approved. Representative Exum.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House now resolve the Assembly Committee of the Whole for consideration of special report.
You have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Exum will take the chair.
Ready? The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there's a request to be reading the bill at length. Committee reports are printed in your bill folders. 4 amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads, and bills will be laid over upon the motion of the majority leader, and the court rule is relaxed. Mr. Negorio, please read the title to House Bill 1234.
House Bill 1234 by Representatives Tipper and Bradfield, also Senators Moreno and Rankin, concerning reducing student learning loss through the creation of high-impact tutoring programs.
The education report. Go ahead.
Representative Bradfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move House Bill 21-1234
Then the appropriations report.
and the Committee on Appropriations
And the education
report
report.
and the Education report.
To the Appropriations Committee report.
Okay. Today in Appropriations, the amendment was for the fiscal year of 21-22, $4,981,720 was appropriated to the Department of Education, and it is based on the assumption that the department will require 1.1 FTE.
Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The Appropriations Committee report is adopted.
Okay, good.
To the Education report, Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, what the bill does is this creates a fund to implement high-impact tutoring for schools that want it to combat learning loss from COVID-19. In Education Committee, what we did is ensure that the Colorado School for the Deaf and Blind is actually included in the potential recipients of the grant funds or applicants, and then also ensuring that AmeriCorps members could be some of the tutors. I asked for a yes vote on the Education Committee report.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the Education Committee report to House Bill 1234? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Education Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Thank you. All opposed say no. The Education report is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you,
Representative
Mr.
Bradfield.
Chair. Currently, school districts across Colorado are planning what interventions they will use for students this summer or for next fall. And if they do their due diligence and research, they will see that high-impact tutoring has the best return for its investment in terms of student achievement. This bill, 1234, does allow school districts to apply for money for high-impact tutoring. Go ahead.
Yes, Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was a unanimous vote out of committee. We had some really compelling testimony of families struggling, holding bake sales to try and raise funds in order to tutor their students. And I really feel it was important for the state to step in and do what we can to help those families. I ask for a yes vote.
Thank you. Any further discussion on House Bill 1234? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1234. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Thank you. House Bill 1234 is adopted.
Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1270.
House Bill 1270 by Representatives Exum and Caraveo, also Senators Fields and Kirkmeyer, concerning an appropriation to the Department of Human Services for services related to the Colorado Employment First Program with the Supplemental Assistance Nutrition Program and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Go ahead.
Representative Exum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1270 and the Appropriations Committee report and the Public and Behavioral Health and Human Services report.
Thank you, sir. To the Appropriations Committee report.
The Appropriations Committee appropriated $3 million for this bill, and we ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report, all those, the question before us is the passage of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is passed. To the Public and Behavioral Health Committee report, Representative Caraveo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the Public Health and Human Services Committee, we set some guardrails around the different services that DHS can provide with this money. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Public and Behavioral Health Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Public and Behavioral Health Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The committee's report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Exum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, we bring to you House Bill 1270 to increase funding for the Education or Employment First program called SNAP. Employment First is a state-supervised county administrative program, so it's all about local control. The federal fiscal year 21, the EF program is offered to 21 urban and rural counties by the County Services Department and by a third-party partnership which offers a variety of employment and training components. It helps clients with a variety of services, including resume writing, career development, access to labor market information, adult education and vocational services, and short-term vocational training and other workforce development services.
Representative Caraveo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so while there are almost 500,000 people who participate in SNAP annually in Colorado, we estimate that about 148,000 people will use SNAP ENT services. So what this bill will do is pull down an additional $3 million of federal funding because it will match state dollars for a total of $16 million spent on this type of training to get people trained into jobs when they're on SNAP benefits. We ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1270? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1270. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. House Bill 1270 passes.
Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to Senate Bill 188.
Senate Bill 188 by Senator Danielson, also Representatives Duran and Ortiz, concerning allowing a voter with a disability who receives a ballot through electronic voting device to return the ballot electronically.
Representative Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move Senate Bill 188 and the committee report.
To the State Civics, Military, and Veterans Affairs report. Representative Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in committee, we ran an amendment that explicitly defines who's eligible for the new electronic transmission.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the State Civic Military and Veterans Affairs report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the State Civic Veterans and Military Report. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Ortiz.
Mr. Chair, members, at the heart of what this bill does is tap into a safe and secure system that we already allow access to for our service members that put themselves in harm's way abroad, our UCAVA voters. We had testimony from the Secretary of State and the Denver clerk that here in Colorado, this is a safe and secure system for our voters in uniform that are deployed. It is way overdue to allow this access for those that have...
Ortiz, hold on just a second. Members, we're on second reading. Please pay attention to the well. Thank you very much. Representative Ortiz, please continue.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, at the heart of what this bill does is it extends to those that have a disability that requires it access to voting independently like the rest of us enjoy here in Colorado. So that's what the heart of this bill is, and with that, I urge an aye vote.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 188? Yes, Representative Hotorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, esteemed colleagues. I have several questions about this particular Senate bill and the electronic aspects of that. The first question is, do not any persons with a disability have the ability to ask for an absentee ballot and submit that through the existing channels? I know when I was in the military, I voted by absentee ballot, and I was stationed all over the world. And it wasn't difficult. It just took some forethought and some early coordination to make sure the ballots came in time and they could be returned in time. So I just want to know, is that system still in place, and does it serve disabled persons as it served me when I was in the military?
Representative Ortiz.
Again, members, we're talking about equal access to voting. An absentee ballot will not make accessible voting for those that are blind, for example. And at the heart of what this bill does is it extends voting access in an independent way, the same as you and I get. It's a secure system. So again, that question is not relevant to what this bill does. This will extend independent voting the way the rest of us get to already enjoy it. It's a safe and secure system. I urge an aye vote.
Thank you. Representative Donald Valdez. Representative Hotorf.
And thank you, Representative Ortiz, for that answer. I do have some reservation with regard to a lot of the electronic systems that we have in a time where there is questions about voter integrity, election integrity, and the security and safety of electronic systems. Is this the right time to be moving forward with more electronic systems when they may not have been hardened and may not have been made secure? So I will say that until those issues are resolved, and we do have clarity on voter and election integrity, I'm very concerned with moving forward. Nothing about the disabled or disabilities. There's some questions about all of the systems at a time where even here in this Capitol building, I think we have a large percentage of us that have had fraud committed against us by the unemployment insurance fraud that's taking place, and the security of those systems.
Representative Hotorf, to the bill, please.
So, to the bill, the question truly is security and integrity of those electronic systems as we move forward and try to promote more electronic systems in voting.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I I voted no on this particular bill in committee, and while I do appreciate the efforts by the bill sponsor to address, I think, a very real problem, right now I do believe that current law does satisfy the needs for providing this type of voting access to those who need it. And I think there is something to be said about opening this up further. The more and more we allow for this, the more and more vulnerabilities and risks that could exist and lead to things that we're trying to not lead to. We want a secure voting system and process, and the more and more we open this, the more vulnerability, the more risks that we do open up. And I think that's something that we shouldn't take lightly, and for that reason I just couldn't get to a yes on this particular one, especially given the fact that I think current law does address this. So I would encourage everyone here to vote no on this particular bill, or at least seek some way to maybe find an alternative to what's being proposed here. But nevertheless, I do appreciate what the bill sponsor is trying to do, and I thank you for the discussion.
Thank you. Representative Valdez D.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the bill sponsors for bringing this bill forward, because this is a good bill, not only help those with disability. My cousin, who's a paraplegic, he's a farmer and he's a rancher, and he continues to make sure that he's working. But with this, gives him access electronically to vote. Gives him a way to have his voice be heard. And with that, I want to thank the bill sponsors for bringing this bill forward. But all those with the disability who can't have the access, this bill is moving forward for you. So thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 188. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. Senate Bill 188 is adopted. Ms. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1271.
House Bill 1271 by Representatives McCluskey and Judah, also Senator Gonzalez, concerning the establishment of programs offering state assistance to local governments to promote the development of innovative, affordable housing strategies in a manner that is compatible with best local land use practices, and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Well done. Thank you. Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honor to serve with you.
Thank you. I move House Bill 1271 and the report from Transportation and Local Government and the report from Appropriations.
To the Appropriations report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In Appropriations, we appropriated $13 million. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Appropriations Committee report to House Bill 1271. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The Appropriations report is adopted. To the Transportation and Local Government report, Representative Judah.
Hello, Mr. Speaker.
Representative
One
McCluskey.
second, Mr. Speaker. Chair. I know who I'm talking to, I swear.
Yes, Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Transportation and Local Government, we did pass an amendment that made numerous changes to the bill. We were cleaning up some language. We also removed some language that was ill-defined outside of the bill. We changed a couple of the menu options. And I do have one amendment. I move L005 to the Transportation and Local Government Committee report and ask that it be properly displayed.
That's a proper motion. The amendment is before us. To the amendment, Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a technical amendment to change tribal communities to federally recognized tribes within the bill, and I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Any further discussions on Amendment L005 to the Transportation Local Government Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L005. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The amendment is adopted. Now we're back to the Transportation Local Government Committee report. Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the Transportation Local Government Committee report to House Bill 1271. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The Transportation Local Government report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Judah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I'm
very proud to co-prime this bill alongside Rep. McCluskey because it incentivizes local communities to remove barriers to affordable housing development, as well as to prioritize some readily available resources that will help them identify and prioritize local housing needs. Through 3 programs funded, this bill supports local government to adopt effective tools to support housing creation, including laying out a menu of options that they can adopt. DOLA may also add to the list, and it allows for local government to propose an innovative idea not included on the list that they can also adopt. This bill also includes a planning grant program that awards local government funding for assistance to adopt qualifying land use strategies, including the needs for assessment and reviewing model land use codes or making investments in community. And then finally, the Affordable Housing Guide Toolkit and local official guides to help local government develop an overall affordable housing strategy.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, affordable housing is essential to a robust and thriving economy, and when housing is affordable and available, it allows for a viable workforce, reduces cost pressures on workers and families, and allows communities to grow and thrive. I am so excited to bring forward this bill for you today because it's a very novel and innovative approach to incentivizing local governments in their development of housing projects. We're inviting local governments, no matter where they are in their planning or needs assessment around affordable housing, maybe they've done some of the basic strategic work around development, but they need more assistance, so they require the help of a consultant or additional expertise. Or maybe they're a community that has been struggling with providing more affordable housing for years now, and they need additional funding to help reduce some of the barriers or challenges that get in the way of expediting some of these projects. We're very excited to bring the bill forward and ask for your support of House Bill 1271.
Thank you. Representative Van Winkle to House Bill 1271.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Always nice. I definitely recognize that affordable housing is an issue that many of our communities in Colorado are dealing with, although a lot of it, the issues surrounding it, are the increased cost of living that all Coloradans are facing across our state, much like they are in many western states. And a lot of that comes from taxes. The complexity of our tax code is rather insane. We are working on it, and it's an issue that former Representative Tracy Kraft Harp and I have worked on hard for years on. But there's also fees from every level of government. There's red tape. There's mandates. This is what's causing a lot of the affordable issues that we're having. And my specific issue with this bill isn't necessarily the affordable housing piece. It's that in 1 year it puts $750,000, so $750,000 towards hiring new consultants. It puts $542,000 into hiring new personnel at the Department of Local Affairs. That's an awful lot of money to really consultants and government employees that will be here forever, when in fact the plans that they'll be implementing, the plans that they're working for, are forever projects, forever into the future. And yet this is really one-time money that's to get it up and running, but there's no support for the local governments in the long run. And so for those reasons, I was a no vote in committee and would prefer to see less money go to new consultants and new government personnel.
Thank you. Further discussion on House Bill 1271. Yes, Representative Ortiz.
It's a great bill. My only ask for the bill sponsors is to make sure any grant applications or anything like that are accessible for those that are blind or deaf or that live with a disability. If only we had a bill that would fix that, but that's not this bill. We're talking about a great housing bill. My ask is to make sure that they make it accessible.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1271. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. House Bill 1271 is adopted. Ms. Neglorio, please read the title to Senate Bill 247.
Senate Bill 247 by Senators Fenberg and Holbert, also Representatives Escar and McKean, concerning the procedures of the independent redistricting commissions.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 247 and the committee report.
To the committee report.
In committee, we ran 2 amendments, and the bill passed. We ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the State Civics, Military, and Veterans Affairs Report. Oh, Representative Hanks, to the committee report.
I'm sorry. I thought we were passing the bill. Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. I stepped in a little early. I'll step back out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. The question before us is the adoption of the State Civics, Military, and Affairs Report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The report is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this bill is simply a bill that helps make sure that the intention of Amendments Y and Z are actually met. We are actually giving a little bit of flexibility, or asking the Supreme Court for a little bit of flexibility on gathering preliminary data to be able to go out and talk to our communities about what exactly they think redistricting should look like. This in no way, shape, or form impacts the final census data that we have to complete the maps. We ask for your support.
Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Folks, we are continually reminded about how important this work is and how we have to get it done in a certain amount of time. I speak with my hands frequently. But what we're really trying to do is make sure that we phrase our questions and frame our questions in the proper way so that we can get answers from the Supreme Court, because this was a constitutional amendment, if you recall. And it had some dates in it, and those dates are different now because of everything that happened during COVID. So we need to go and ask the right questions. This is a bill to do exactly that.
Thank you to both of our leaders of our House. Representative Valdez D.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the bill sponsors, because this is a good bill, making sure there's accountability, but also there's fairness. Fairness moving forward for the districts, and I thank Majority Leader Escar and Minority Leader McKean for bringing this bill forward, and I support Senate Bill 247.
Thank you. Representative Hanks, now's your turn.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Glad to be on time and on target here right now. In the committee yesterday, I voted against this, and I have a cautionary tale. Back in 2011, I had the good fortune to be stationed out in the state of California with the U.S. Air Force. I watched their reapportionment process, where they did very much what we did here in Colorado, and that is had a citizens redistricting commission going. It all went very swimmingly until they had very interesting districts. This is my concern here in Colorado. They put them forth, and then the back rooms and the political hacks moved the redistricting lines back to where they used to be. I do not think we ought to be playing with any aspect of what was voted on by the people on Amendment Y and Z. I'm afraid this gives a little bit more smoke and opportunity for entities to manipulate data. What I would suggest is, yeah, we had a COVID pandemic, so to speak. I guess I would ask the commissions to be heroic and work harder and get it done. That's what you do in the military when you really can't adjust your dates and your target times. You just get it done. So I think we need to keep Y and Z as close to what the voters approved as possible. And so I'm a no vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And that's exactly what this does, keeps it as close as possible. Because what we're really doing is saying that we will not have what we call the legacy data for a long time that might impact our caucuses and our assemblies and our primaries. And so therefore, what we're going to do is figure out the very, very best way to put our noses to the grindstone and get on with this process. The challenge, of course, is that, that we don't have control over what the federal government does. I know we all think that we should, or that we do, but we don't. And so that means that we're going to get that census data when we do, and we're going to get a lot of work done up until then. And really, truly, what we get out of this is we get more public input. Instead of everything being rushed at the end and just here it is, we're going to get preliminary maps, we're going to have discussion in communities of interest on those, and then we're going to have our final maps and public input on those as well.
Thank you. Minority Leader Escar. Or, I'm sorry, Majority Leader
I was
Escar.
going to say, Mr. Chair, you may want
I'm
to
sorry,
fix that
both of
title
you are
for the good
there,
of
you
all
know.
of us. The only other thing I would add, the Minority Leader explained it in a great way, is I just want to make sure that you understand, Representative Hanks, that that is actually the intention of this bill, is to make sure that there aren't any backroom conversations happening, that they are using the data that we have available right now to start the public conversations and really start having those meetings out open in the front, and making sure that when we have the actual data from the census, whenever they get it to us, that we're able to really move forward with accurate accountability and accuracy to make sure we get this done right.
Thank you. Further discussion? Yes, Representative Hanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday, there was a couple of amendments run through, and I wanted to ask the bill sponsors, specifically on L006. It says on line 5 and thereafter that the commission has held at least one public hearing, giving the public an opportunity to comment on a plan presented to the commission. What I wanted to ask is, how much advance notice are we going to get on this public hearing, and who's invited? Where is it going to be? I hope this is not a 20 minutes in advance of a meeting and two guys show up with a cup of coffee. Thank you.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Hanks, once again, this is going to be the commission's prerogative. This is their commission. This is not our commission to tell them what to do, because we want us collectively to stay out of it. That was the intention of YNZ. This goes back to the commission. The commission will make those details, and we want to make sure that they have the ability to determine their own schedules.
Thank you. Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you so much. And you are welcome, Mr. Chair, to confuse titles as much as you like.
I thought you
your
might
lips
say
to
that.
God's ears. So,
My bad.
So here's the question. I think it's appropriately put, Representative Hanks. How much notice will there be, and also how robust will that public outreach be? It's already been robust, and it will continue to be so. And actually, I would guide you backwards a little bit up to line 4, that the Redistricting Commission shall not approve unless they have held at least one public hearing, right? So when we take a look at that, we're actually saying, you know what, you just have to hold one. No, you will not approve that plan unless you have held at least one. Notice is partly our open meetings laws, especially through this. And I would, I think that I'm the poster child in this chamber for redistricting. So my district boundary actually hits the fence post tops of the backyard of B.J. Nichols' house. And Representative B.J. Nickel was a state representative until she wasn't, when she was redistricted into someone else's. So when I say I've paid attention to this, believe you me, I live this life.
Thank you. Further discussion? Yes, Representative Hortorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, bill sponsors, for bringing this bill, Senate Bill 21-247. I know that there's a lot of people very concerned in this state about the future of the commission and the redistricting. It has been commented that Colorado is one of the most gerrymandered districts in the United States. And of course that is debatable, but there is a lot of gerrymandering that is going on and has gone on in this state. I believe the commission's intent is to get away from gerrymandering. That is not a pleasant word in the eyes of the constituents in my House district. So the question I have for the bill sponsors, and I know that our leadership, majority and minority, I'll get it right, majority and minority here, have been working very hard to maintain the integrity of the people, the will of the people. Because it truly is about the will of the people. Special interests, lobbyists, and other organizations that are out there trying to influence and manipulate not only us in this chamber and in the upper chamber, or manipulate people on the commission is very dangerous, and that will not lead to the results to eliminate or mitigate the gerrymandering that has been done in the past. So my question to the bill sponsors is, how does this affect the timeline as we move forward, and will we still be able to have a good result that mitigates the gerrymandering of the past?
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is actually intended for them to be able to stay on task and on the timelines. What we're saying is, instead of waiting for the census data to come in to start your work, start working now. Start working and having these community meetings with the preliminary data that we have now. Start gathering feedback, start gathering information. So when that census data comes in, we're ready to go with the accurate data, but you already have the feedback from the communities that you've been talking to, and move forward and get it done within the timeline to make sure that everything falls into place as is stated in the Constitution.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 247. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. 247 is adopted. Ms. Nagorio, please read the title to House Bill 1238.
House Bill 1238 by Representative Burnett, also Senator Hansen, concerning the modernization of gas energy efficiency programs.
Representative Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move House Bill 21-1238 and the committee report.
To the Energy and Environment Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill cleans up unnecessary language and incorporates rate adjustment mechanisms common to many demand-side management programs. It directs the Public Utilities Commission that they cannot remove gas lines from existing buildings, nor can they prohibit installing gas lines in new buildings. It creates a certified contractors list of contractors participating in apprenticeship programs or meet certain graduation standards. This list will be either compiled and provided to the utilities by either the State Apprenticeship Council, if it is created by legislation, or through the CDLE through a process where the contracts will apply annually to be included on the list and will provide evidence that they meet the list criteria. The use of this certified contractors list for the purposes of receiving a rebate will only apply to commercial, industrial, or multifamily buildings involving the building-wide project, only on buildings over 20,000 square feet. That's about twice the size of a Walgreens store, and it does not apply to any residential buildings. The amendment also changes the discount rate for the social cost of carbon dioxide and methane to 2.5% to be consistent with the anticipated changes in the federal discount rate, thereby updating the social cost of carbon dioxide and methane used in this bill for the cost-benefit analysis accordingly. I urge the adoption of the committee report.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the Energy and Environment Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Energy and Environment Committee report to House Bill 1238. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I like it.
I got your attention. Okay. This bill saves residents and businesses money. It creates jobs. It helps low-income residents, and it helps Colorado meet its greenhouse gas reduction goals. According to Colorado's greenhouse gas reduction roadmap, there are 4 areas we need to focus on to reduce our emissions. Buildings is one of them. This bill addresses buildings. It incentivizes Coloradans to improve the gas energy efficiency of their buildings. This is the natural gas used to heat our buildings, to heat our water. It's one of the and energy efficiency is one of the main strategies identified in the greenhouse gas reduction roadmap. It also fosters the adoption of clean heat technologies. This bill applies only to investor-owned gas utilities under the regulation of the Public Utilities Commission. That's Xcel Energy, Black Hills, Atmos, and CNG. It does not apply to public municipal utilities or co-ops. So what does this bill do? It gives the Public Utilities Commission new tools to direct utilities to improve the gas energy efficiency of buildings through promotions and rebates, such as higher efficiency furnaces and water heaters, and also weatherization, like insulation and air sealing. It allows for the adoption of new, clean energy technologies as they become more widely available or cost effective. It directs the PUC to establish energy savings targets for gas DSM programs consistent with greenhouse gas reduction goals as outlined in HB 19-1261. It directs the Public Utilities Commission to include in the benefit cost analysis the social costs of carbon dioxide and methane leakage. It directs the PUC to include the benefits of society of using less natural gas to heat buildings, and to use a discount rate associated with the long-term benefits of using less natural gas. This bill addresses equity. It requires the utilities to dedicate a portion of their programs, up to 25% of residential expenditures, to help low-income customers pay for the full costs of weatherizing their homes. It creates jobs in weatherization, like insulation and air sealing, and jobs for businesses that sell and install high-efficiency furnaces, water heaters, and also clean heat technologies such as solar thermal heat pumps, geothermal heat pumps, and solar water heaters. It is estimated over the next 10 years, this bill will cut 800,000 tons of CO2 emissions. It will double gas savings, representing $600 to $700 million of savings for customers right here in Colorado. So in closing, this bill saves residents and businesses money. It improves the energy efficiency of residential and commercial buildings, creates jobs, helps low-income residents, and helps Colorado meet its greenhouse gas reduction goals. Mr. Chair, I urge to vote yes on House Bill 21-1238. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a question. When I look at page 9 on the bill, it seems to change the term low income to income qualified households. Yet there doesn't appear to be a definition that sets the standard for income qualified households. So who's going to be setting that standard and definition?
Thank you. Representative Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will get back to you on that question. I do have the answer, but it is already, I'll get back to you on that answer, or that question, okay?
Representative Rich.
Are you going to get back to me before we vote on this?
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, Representative Hotorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the bill sponsors. I have a question about the PUC setting these limits and targets. Is that voluntary or will it be mandatory with respect to the intent of this bill?
Representative Valdez D.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too rise with a question. In southern Colorado, we pay some of the highest rates of utilities, from natural gas to electricity. And in the bill, it says avoiding costs to ratepayers resulting from reduced consumption. Can you tell me a little bit more about this, how it's going to save costs for my district and my constituents in southern Colorado, in the San Luis Valley, Huerfano County, and in Pueblo?
Well, let's see if we can get the first question answered. We'll get back to you. Representative Hotorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and the bill sponsor has talked to me in part about the PUC's role and them setting these. But I do have concerns. I do have concerns if the PUC many of those positions are appointed, is not fair and objective to the citizens and the energy providers and those companies in Colorado. And then they take a role of moving political agendas, environmental agendas, which may in fact raise the cost of energy, which we already see happening in the state. Now, I think something we need to pay very close attention to, and I believe this bill has a negative impact. We need to pay very close attention as we travel down this road, the green energy road, renewable energy road, trying to push Colorado into the future as fast as we can to arrive at our utopian model of renewable energy and green energy. Now, allow me to explain myself, because the cost of energy in almost every household is a significant line item. When you write your checks or you do your computer payments, however you do it, to the utility companies, to the water company, to the electric company, to the oil and gas company to heat your home, it's a significant expense. Now, will that expense get higher for Coloradoans as we continue to travel down this road and demand, using these demand-side management standards of the Public Utility Commissions, will those things cause Colorado citizens to have higher energy costs in future time? Now, I'm not talking next year or the year after. I'm talking 10, 20, 30 years from now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, natural gas is a very good energy source. It is available, it is reliable, and it is quite clean and can be made cleaner with additional technologies. As many of these things can as we move forward. But I am very concerned at the bottom line for Colorado citizens. I am very concerned in the future as we travel down this road for Colorado citizens, as they have to, very much like my colleague from La Jara stated, those energy costs down south are high. Do they want them to be higher? Will we discount and marginalize many of these traditional energy sources? Will the PUC, and here's my real question and concern, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll be very honest and straightforward, as I usually am. Will the PUC be blinded by political and ideological initiatives and efforts in this state? Or will they, as their charter states, will they put the people first? The Public Utilities Commission, will they put the public first to try to keep their costs down? Or will now construction costs go up? Will energy retrofitting costs go up? Will the mandate for these new systems to be implemented make costs go up? And those things have to be passed on to the consumer one way or another. Well, I hate to break the future, but I think I already have, because I know what will happen. So I really want to know, is this going to help the public have lower energy costs in the future or not, bill sponsors? Or do we even care about the public and the cost of energy, particularly to the lowest income folks? Because they have the hardest time making those bills. But then we turn around and say, don't worry, we'll take care of that. We'll give those low-income people more money. We'll give a program like LEAP, or we'll expand the program. But the problem with this methodology, ladies and gentlemen, is it's a circular firing squad. As you raise this up, then you have to pump more money in the bottom to supplement what you've created, which is a negative impact to Coloradoan consumers. This is just the beginning. But there are already indications that the PUC has not considered in previous rulings those other companies that don't have and don't meet or aren't considering the renewable energy environment that politics in this state is demanding. That politics in this state is demanding, not the people. So, for the bill sponsors, I'd sure like some clarifications on this, because I really am about the people. I'm about the people, not the politics. Okay? I'm about Coloradoans first, people before policy, people before politics. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I have some of my concerns, and they sort of form along some of those similar lines, that as we demand certain things, then we sometimes get, often, always probably, we get unintended consequences. A few years back, when Speaker Becker proposed a pretty sweeping change and adopting a whole lot of targets for renewable and recycled energy, one of the things that we talked about in this room were exactly these kinds of issues. What we put in front of the PUC, how we end up creating policy that the PUC has to deal with. And one of the questions I asked then, and I sort of ask now, is in similar fashion, that as we change dramatically the ways in which we are regulating our energy consumption, production, all of these things, I think that we have to look at it in this global perspective. And I asked the speaker then, where's the fiscal note for the giant glass dome over our state for some of the air quality standards? And to this end, I also asked this. So around 800,000 tons of carbon are to be reduced under some of these policies. One of the things that I certainly believe, and I think many do, is science is real. And so if we look at the annual emissions in gigatons of just oceans and land on this big planet we call Earth, we're at 727.3 gigatons. So when we look at 800,000, first of all, in a dynamic world, it's not a huge amount. But then what is the impact? And I share this little bit of a story with you because I think that it goes to some of the common sense side of how we try to regulate and what some of the impacts are. I like to plan, and I like to make sure that I know what's coming. And so for years with my gas consumption, I was on a budget plan. And then I changed a furnace, and I changed a water heater. And I got a very efficient furnace, and I got an on-demand water heater. And because I wasn't paying attention to it for a few months, over the course of a couple of years, I built up a credit with that particular company of about $700, which should tell you, over the course of those years, just my higher efficiency side was worth that much to a family's income, to a family's budget. And so my question here is, how much of this is carrot and how much of this is stick? How much of the carrot side of this, of not just the demand side, that's the demand side, how much are we incentivizing people to go in and put in the more energy efficient appliances, and how much consideration was that paid in this, especially in front of the PUC, where decisions get made and often are made within the realm of what can we control rather than what can we incentivize. So how much discussion went into how can we incentivize that on a common sense, voluntary basis?
Further discussion? Yes, Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the discussion that we've been hearing about this bill. There are so many aspects to it, and I really want to thank the sponsors for looking at ways to save people money and also ways to make sure that we're not hurting our energy goals in our state. And for those of you that were looking at your bill, there's actually a really wonderful report, the Greenhouse Gas Emissions Report, that is in your bill folder. It's also online, and it had a lot of good information and tables in there that I found very enlightening. And there's two sentences here that I wanted to bring to your attention. The bill adds beneficial electrification to the definition of DSM programs, which may result in more measures passing the cost-effectiveness requirements, leading to potentially higher energy savings targets. Although likely limited in its application for gas utilities that are not also electric utilities, for those utilities that serve both gas and electric customers, beneficial electrification may be included in gas DSM portfolios, further reducing natural gas consumption in the building fuel use sector. So that is very important for us to keep in mind, folks, that we're adding to this goal. And this report, by the way, was put together by our nonpartisan staff. So they have looked at this issue and this bill with where we are now and where the bill is requesting that we go. And I have one really simple question for the sponsor that I would love to have answered in light of that point. Many years ago, before my kids all grew up, I had a house full of kids, boys that played football and baseball and had dirty clothes, and I did a whole lot of laundry when I had a house full of kids, 7 people in the house, 2 dogs and a cat. I mean, there was just a lot of laundry. And so I switched from an electric to a gas dryer, and I'm with Excel. The bill went down, and the time it took to dry a load of laundry, and by the way, I did laundry every single day, dropped drastically. So my bills went down, and the time that I spent doing laundry also went down. And I'm wondering how this would fit if we're moving to more electricity. And it looks like in the bill there are some financial incentives to move. Let's see, this was on pages 9 into 10. It says that the Commission shall not prohibit gas utilities from offering programs or incentives that encourage customers to replace gas-fueled appliances with efficient electric appliances. Now, if this would encourage me to go back to an electric dryer, clearly I would have to go buy another dryer. But I wanted to just ask the sponsors how that would fit in with the bill. When looking at the we look at bills on the macro and the micro level. This is actually the micro level, because it really made sense to me to go to a gas dryer when the cost went down and the time I spent doing laundry went down. So I'm hoping the sponsor will actually figure out the answer to that and get up and give me an answer to that question.
Representative Hotorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and bill sponsors. So I know that was probably a complicated question asked by Representative Ransom. But I want to say a few things that are factual, true, and real in rural Colorado, and true to this state. Our gas and propane energy sources out in rural Colorado are more accessible and affordable. Now, I would imagine as the PUC promulgates these rules under this legislation, they'll think they're applied across the state, because so many of my friends in urban Colorado don't realize that rural Colorado is vastly different from urban Colorado. But I will tell you, the cost of energy in rural Colorado, gas, natural gas, and liquid propane is the most affordable to us. And there's a reason. And we'd like to keep it that way, because we don't need our costs getting higher and higher and higher as we travel down this road that politics and policy is leading us down in Colorado. I will tell you, my electric bill is much higher than my gas bill where I live. And if we were to push out gas and try to eliminate it, or set standards that push it out, what happens to my costs? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you a hint. They go up significantly. And if you come out to where I live in June, we're not made of money. None of us. We got to work hard to stay where we're at and survive. And this type of legislation and others that are being promulgated do not help us survive. In fact, I believe they harm us. I am not excited about this bill. I am not excited about the PUC setting these targets and standards. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story in this chamber, and I hope I have your attention. Because the PUC, my own rural electric cooperative, asked to submit in a PUC hearing not a year ago. They asked for a follow-on hearing to submit evidence and a rebuttal to a stated directive very much like this type of legislation, and the PUC denied them. And they called me and asked me, how is that possible? How can the PUC, who's there to protect the public, not allow for a follow-on hearing? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's because the executive director and the administrative law judge in that hearing colluded, connived, talked to people, and said, no, we're not going to allow for that. That would be like us in this chamber saying we're not going to debate this bill.
Representative Hotorf, please stay to the bill, sir.
Oh, I'm staying to the bill because it's all about the PUC right here. Let me read the title. PUC Modernized Gas Utility Demand Side Management Standards. That means you're putting all
Please
this in the
stay
hands
to
of
the
the
bill
PUC.
and not to other cases. Please stick to this bill, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I just want to bring out some real situations, and I want to tell my colleagues in this chamber how critical these things can be if we're not careful. I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned with my experience as a legislator. I'm very concerned with dealing with the PUC. I'm very concerned with the politics, and I'm very concerned about these targets and what is going to happen to the cost of energy in Colorado for Coloradoans in the future as these targets are set and then these mandates are mandated. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't do this. You just can't do this. You just can't do this without considering the rest of Colorado. Think about my people, if you can. Because I tell you what, things like this and many others are what grow the rural-urban divide.
Further discussion on House Bill 1238. Yes, Representative Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your list of questions, maybe you're going to be able to respond to this. A fact sheet has been circulating with this legislation stating current policies greatly understate the costs of natural gas by not accounting for the pollution and health effects the fossil fuel causes. Hopefully, the sponsors, if they're listening, can provide for us the number of cases related to lung disease, blood disease, and joint disease in the peer-reviewed medical literature that can be traced unequivocally to the use or production of natural gas. Hope you can answer that question.
Further discussion. Representative Will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honor to serve with you, sir.
Been talking a lot about this bill. We heard it in committee. And I just wanted to come up and make some comments about this green energy. The physical footprint for wind and solar is huge in this state. And, you know, we talk a lot about the other different bills, and I get behind a lot of bills about preserving land and maintaining our natural beauty in this state and in our countryside. Apparently, when it comes to the scenic and solar wind farms, that doesn't apply. Scenic. Scenic is the key word there. For the most part, either we don't know or don't care about the massive amounts of real estate needed for these wind farms and these green energies. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the per megawatt produced. So, and I'll go through it through coal, natural gas, solar, and wind, but coal, it takes about 12 acres, just a skosh over 12 acres, per megawatt produced with coal. For natural gas, takes about 12.41 megawatts or acres per megawatt. Solar, almost 44 acres per megawatt. Wind, almost 71 acres. So the amount of acreage is needed in Colorado just in 2019 was for coal about 90,000 acres, natural gas about 62,000 acres. Currently what we have in solar is 16,000 acres, wind 226,000 acres. So now I'm going to speak only about wind here for the wind farms. So in the megawatts needed right now in Colorado 2020 is 33,728. Acres needed 279,600. That's just in 2020. That's roughly 437 square miles. So if you remember back in House Bill 1261, so in 2030, we're going to need almost 12,000 megawatts, which is going to require 890,000 acres, 1,300, almost 1,400 square miles. For the energy goals, this green energy goal to go to 2040, we're going to need 21,000 megawatts, almost 900,000 acres needed, 2,500 square miles. So to get to the 2050 goals, we're at 24,314 megawatts. Acres needed, a bunch, over 1 million. 2,849 square miles. So Coloradans will be forced to sacrifice more and more land to create green energy. This is critical, folks. From 2020, from today, or last year, to 2050, it's a 552% expansion of acreages demanded by the governor's plan. To understand the amount of square miles involved, so the city of Boulder occupies about 27 square miles. It would take 52 Boulder-sized cities covered entirely in wind turbines to meet the green energy goals. That's for 2030. Take 106 turbine-covered boulders for compliance in 2050. That puts it in perspective. So in solar alone, so back, let's start in 2030, megawatts needed, 4774, that's 324 square miles. This is just the solar. The last I talked about was wind. Megawatts needed in 2040 to meet the plan, the governor's plan, 10,082 megawatts. That's 685 square miles. Remember, we're just talking solar. And by 2050, 12,000, almost 13,000 megawatts, 860 square miles. Just like their wind counterparts, solar farms require vast tracts of land in which to operate. And, you know, unlike the wind farms, solar farms really make the land beneath them unusable. And so this is not a good bill. And, you know, we have this, you know, we want to go renewable and do green, but these kind of bills and these kind of mandates are not very green when it comes to our landscape in Colorado. So I'm going to be a strong no on this bill.
Further discussion, I had Representative Gray. Thank you. Okay, Representative Van Berber.
I had asked this, thank you, Mr. Chair. I had asked this question in committee when this bill came before us, and if we look at the bill and we assume, if there is an assumption, you actually believe that there's a social cost of carbon dioxide, and if you believe that that social cost is $46 per short ton, the bill then goes on to state that by a later date, based on escalation rates of the 2020 base cost, that amount will increase to $1,090. So from $46 a short ton social cost of methane to $1,090 per short ton for social cost of methane. That represents a 2,300% increase in that difference. My question was, how can this possibly, with that kind of increase, not cost our consumers more when it comes to this energy? The answer was the portfolio will be doubled for the public utility company and the cost sharing will go to the consumer. So I guess I just want to make sure that that number is on the record, that that number is something that was questioned in committee, and that that was the answer provided to us as we heard. Thank you.
Further discussion? Yes, Representative Hanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to quote Dr. Peter Beckman, a electrical engineer, taught at University up in Boulder. He made a comment about energy. He had a great publication called Access to Energy. And he made a comment that pertains very directly to natural gas. And his comment was, the only thing worse than natural gas is no natural gas. And I say this as I do a little trend analysis on where we're headed with this bill and the mindset behind it. And I want to caution people to look no further than Canada in 2003 as they moved their entire country away from natural gas and propane. We're running power lines up into the almost the Arctic Circle trying to keep their people in electricity. And then the rainstorms hit and the freezing rain, and it pulled down high tension towers and all the wires. These people were now dependent on electric energy, and they ended up having to relocate them to gymnasiums, living in there by the hundreds. Think about that in a COVID environment. Diversity of energy is a good thing. I've had the good fortune of working in the fracking industry, and I'll tell you what, the people that work in that are conscientious. Same thing with the gas industry. It's all connected. We have to be extremely careful in what we're doing with the idea of making gas less and less attractive purely through government intervention, because on its merits, it can punch above its weight. Thank you.
Further discussion? Yes, Representative Luck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like I believe all of us, I desire to be a good environmental steward, right? I like seeing beautiful things. I like breathing clean air. I like drinking clean water. But we have to realize that every action we take has consequences, both before and after and all around. And so I just wanted to raise awareness about how many materials it takes to build a single wind turbine, right? Because while that might be a cleaner form of energy once it's up and running, potentially, is it cleaner to actually build? And so one wind turbine, I find this interesting, takes 103,063 pounds of cast iron, 507,021 pounds of steel, 3,483 pounds of copper, 113,036 pounds of chromium, 1,850 pounds of aluminum, 1,749 pounds of zinc, 115,445 pounds of fiberglass, and 3.7 million pounds of concrete, 19,587 pounds of epoxy resin, and 1,659 pounds of oil. Now, if our goal is to implement the governor's plan, this is part of the governor's plan. And my question is, if we're going to be mining these materials, if we're going to be importing them from other countries who mine these materials and may not have the same employer rights standards as we do, human rights standards as we do, how are we really furthering that goal of improving good stewardship of our environment? Thank you.
Yes, Representative Will. To the
thank-
bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I wanted to follow up on Rep. Luck's comments a little bit about the prior construction and these, especially about wind towers and the substantial investments in mining and manufacturing that must be undertaken.
Representative Will, the
Acquisition-
bill doesn't talk about wind,
Excuse me?
so if we can stick to the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am sticking to the bill, I think, with the input, so in these wind towers and the fossil fuel inputs that are required to put them up. I just want to say that these, when the construction of that is not done with electric track hose, backhoes, the cranes that set them, the concrete trucks, everything required in this stuff, all have fossil fuel inputs to put these things up. And none of them are running on electric or renewables for the construction.
Thank you. To the bill, Representative Sandridge, House Bill 1238.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I stand in opposition of this bill. There's two ways to look at many bills. On this one, is it right for our people? And the timing. A lot of people here have talked all day about how this could possibly hurt our area or hurt our state. But I think I want to focus on the timing. Many of our people have lost their jobs, lost their businesses, and need to step up. This bill is a regulation that actually hurts people while they're struggling. So we can talk about whether this bill should be approved, but I think at the minimum we need to discuss, should we postpone something like this? Even if you like the concept of the bill, should we postpone it to where our economy has improved? Should we postpone it till our people have a grasp of, our unemployment rate improves? So I think a lot of times when you offer these bills that could impact our economy and put stress on our markets, we need to really evaluate the timing. And maybe when we're back on 2 feet again, we can implement something like this. So I think a lot of these bills, especially this one, let's really look at how it's affecting people. I know we want to push a way of life, but sometimes there's a timing issue with this. So I just want people to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Yes, Representative Hotorf on House Bill 1238.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, esteemed colleagues. As we talk about modernizing gas utility demand-side management standards with respect to House Bill 21-1238 that has been brought forth, I think back to how important it is that natural gas, and I include liquid propane as a natural gas, is in our energy equation. Not too many months ago in Texas, they had a huge calamity because of the imbalance of renewable energy, green energy, and traditional energy. This particular bill will move Colorado, I believe, in a similar trajectory. Now, many of you that are climate theorists or who study climate, who are very interested in the climate and the change in the climate, would tell me, yes, our climate cycles are getting more severe. We're getting hotter and we're getting colder. And the extremes of those two are growing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we move forward with this type of legislation that's going to have the PUC regulate set targets, set minimums, force the movement to a different equation for energy management and energy availability in our state. Could this take us in the same direction as Texas? Could this happen? For those of you that have been out on the eastern plains when the wind's blowing 40, 50 miles an hour, those electric lines blow down. Those poles snap like a toothpick. And energy is laid over. Electric energy is laid over and not available. I think I can remember as a young boy 10 days without power, without electrical power. 10 days because the storms were so severe. Thank God, ladies and gentlemen, we had liquid propane and a liquid propane heater. Thank God we had that. Because we would have been very much like the story of Canada, where now you have a much larger problem. I will tell you that I'm still very concerned with this bill. I'm very concerned with the intent of the bill. I don't think Colorado is on board. I don't think Colorado is on board with this renewable energy plan that has come out of the governor's office. I know in House District 64, we're not on board. Absolutely not. It's not good for southeastern Colorado. If you care to consider us. I know that's a big ask. So I stand here very concerned. There's a lot of things wrong with this. There's a lot of things wrong with this type of legislation. And I think Colorado needs to speak up and speak out, because even Tri-State and others are getting bullied into these targets. Bullied, you say? Yes, bullied.
Representative Hortorf, do not impugn the motives of the bill's sponsors by using the word bully and state to the bill. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't speaking to the bill sponsors. I was speaking to one of the largest or the largest energy company in the state. But I will not intend to impugn anybody. I will tell you that green energy is getting pushed, promoted, and shoved down a lot of people's throats in this state. And I'm going to stand up for my people, and I'm going to push back on this stuff because my constituents expect me to. Mr. Chair, I will tell you, this is not a small matter. This is a serious matter for us as we move incrementally forward. Now, I'll tell everybody in this chamber another story. Because I live out on the Eastern Plains, and we have a river valley that runs right down about 15 miles from my home. And every summer, I see your brown cloud, Denver Metro. I see your brown cloud rolling out on the plains, and it's visible. And we want to reduce that. And I will tell you, I'm in great support of reducing that responsibly, using technology on the backside that cleans and filters and improves the emissions so they are cleaner. But not on the front side that's going to raise our energy costs so we can't even farm. We can't even put our crops in the ground because energy costs have gone so high. I can't even run my mills to feed our cattle because now energy costs have gotten so high. These are real concerns for farmers and ranchers. Energy costs are the top 5 to top 10 expense item in a farm and ranch, and they are real. And oh, by the way, for the irrigators who have to pay for the electricity to pump the water to raise the crops, don't do us any favors, Colorado. Don't do us any favors with these programs that are going to raise our energy costs because you want to follow these plans that have been put forth by the highest level of leadership in this state. And then all of a sudden, our irrigated farmers cost double. Now let me remind all of you in this chamber, we are the ones that have to sell wholesale and buy retail. In the expert words of Representative Mark Catlin, make no mistake about it. Now, with that, I will yield to someone else. I think everyone knows my concerns. I'm not going to come back and speak of them anymore, but I am very, very concerned, ladies and gentlemen, with the issues that come forth. And this incremental approach is dangerous for eastern Colorado.
Thank you. Representative Wheel to House Bill 1238. I'm sorry, Representative Catlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you, as Representative Will would say.
Thank you. Honored to serve with you, sir.
Thank you. Members, I'm here today to talk about the future. I want to make sure that the future doesn't trample on today. Here we are discussing where we're headed and all those things, and it sounds terrific. But currently, right now, in the state of Colorado, we can't help people buy and get into homes for the first time. What are these kind of bills going to do to raise costs for people that are just now maybe going into college and expect to start buying houses when they get out of college in 5 to 6 years? Here's my concerns. Simply changing how costs and savings are calculated by a commission does not matter to the Colorado citizen. What matters is the real cost of building, buying, and heating their homes in real dollars. We haven't talked about that. In my past, I was a real estate agent, owned a real estate company, was a broker. In other words, I was broker than the rest of them. But the point is, we had electric homes at that time. They were being sold by the electric company saying this is the wave of the future. And after costs were calculated and how much people were paying for heat, light, and living there, you could not sell one for a number of years because they cost so much at that time for the energy. Well, energy has not gone down since those days. We might have some better building techniques. We might be able to insulate better windows, those kind of things. The point I'm trying to make is without options, how do we move forward? We've been told we need to move away from coal. And in the next breath, we've got to move away from natural gas, which is very much cleaner than coal, from what we've been told. But now it's not clean enough. It seems to me that good business would dictate we would transition from one type of energy through another type of energy on our way to another one, rather than pull the plug, so to speak, and plug in something else. We're not there, folks. We don't have the capabilities of doing this. You know, I was here when we passed a bill saying that in certain areas, new homes needed to have a plug-in for an electric car in their garage. That had nothing to do with raising the cost, did it? Because most of us can't afford to buy an electric car, let alone the house we're going to park it in. You know, there are statements in this bill that say that it's going to lower costs because of health care. We don't have any information in anything that says what we're doing right now is causing our health care to go up. There's no definitions. These are the things that worry me. This might feel good to pass. This might be one of those that you can go home and say, I did something. But did you do something? Have we done something for the future of Colorado today that will have an impact on a positive way for the people that live in Colorado? It's been mentioned here that rural Colorado is going to carry a lot of the load on this. The space necessary for those solar farms, for those wind farms, and everything else that's going to generate this alternative energy to carry us forward that this bill talks about are in my district. And they're in all of the rural districts. I can tell you that they do have some environmental impacts that maybe people are not talking about today, not yet, but they do have them. Out here on the Eastern Plains, the idea that these windmills are working continuously, there is some evidence that it may be causing some individual problems of the neighbors. I really want to know, can the sponsors assure the public that this bill will not result in additional cost for consumers? We're here to try and help the people. I don't want to saddle the people with costs that they won't be able to pay by the time we get there. There's really no mandate in this bill that the cost it will impose on housing and the acquisition and use of operating electrical properties inside their house has home builders concerned. If we talk about that, I think we should probably listen to the canary in the coal mine, because they're the people that know what's going on with prices. I saw an article the other day said building a house has gone up $36,000 because of the cost of wood. I would hope that we don't saddle that new expensive house with new and expensive electricity that we are still subsidizing rather than being on the open market for buy and sell. Please vote no on this bill.
Thank you. Representative Larson. Representative Sandridge, you're on deck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, members, I rise in support of what Representative Catlin has just said here. So, members, we clearly have an issue before us with global warming, and I applaud the sponsors for their desire to address a very real problem that is facing our state. Where I do take issue, however, is in the characterization of this bill as not only addressing that issue, but also in saving money and creating jobs. Now, members, I think it's important with the public when we address our transition to cleaner energy and when we address the problem of global warming that we are honest with them about the cost of what that is going to do. And I don't take any umbrage with trying to address global warming and carbon dioxide, methane emissions in the aggregate. It is something that's very important. As a millennial, it's something that's incredibly important to my generation, and indeed, I think if you would talk to anyone of my age, that they would list it among the top issues for them. But the question is, at what cost does that come? And that's where this bill, I think, gets it wrong. Because this bill will be tremendously expensive to individuals, to consumers. Just because we're arbitrarily adding a number and forcing public utilities to take that number into account when they are doing their planning does not save people money. And to do so, I think, is disingenuous because people actually pay attention to what we say down here. Now, it will reduce carbon emissions. That is true, and that is a goal. But they are going to see a higher cost on their electrical bills. They are going to see an enormous shift from natural gas over to electrical infrastructure. And members, there are enormous numbers. I don't have a specific number for you right now, but I guarantee you there are over 100,000 units right now that do not have electrical grids that are large enough to take a shift away from natural gas. To install a new electrical panel in a house can run, depending on the infrastructure that's existing, can run in the tens of thousands of dollars. And we have a housing crisis in this state. The reason I know that is because we're passing bills on a weekly basis to address the housing crisis. And we are passing bills to give people assistance with their heating and electrical bills. And we are now going to increase the cost on that monthly basis for electricity. We are going to increase the cost and demand for infrastructure that is going to make that housing more expensive. So members, I think this is the wrong approach. And I think that Representative Catlin hit the nail on the head. We are transitioning away from coal, which is something that I think is important. That is by far the dirtiest source of fuel when it comes to carbon emissions. But natural gas is here as the bridge. and the technological environment that we exist in currently, this decade, and probably for the decade following that, natural gas is the fuel that will transition us to a renewable energy future without wreaking economic havoc. We can get to a renewable future, but the question is, do we want to impose enormous economic harm and enormously disruptive policies to get there a decade or so earlier than we would naturally if we were to rely on natural gas? Not to mention the global nature of carbon emissions problems, which we're totally ignoring in this. Whatever we do in Colorado will pale in comparison to what we could do if we were to start exporting natural gas to Asia and stopping them from bringing more coal plants online. If we were to shift even a small portion of South Asia onto natural gas combined cycle electricity versus coal, all of the climate initiatives that we've done for this state would be wiped away in a month. So members, I think we're looking a little small. We're not necessarily being honest with the people of Colorado when we tell them this is going to save them money and when this is going to create jobs for them. And I don't think we're taking a larger look at the picture. And I think that that's what we need to keep in mind here when we're talking about these bills. So members, again, I do in all sincerity applaud this effort. I want to have a conversation about reducing CO2 in the near future and what we can do to get there, but I think that needs to be a balanced conversation with economic development and the economic consequence. It cannot be a one-sided conversation. It cannot place reducing carbon emissions above every other cost, because that is not the reality that we live in. So members, I rise in opposition to this bill, and I hope that we can come back together and have a more balanced discussion about these efforts going forward.
Thank you. Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to commend some of the frustration I've heard today, especially from certain districts like Representative Holtorf. He is a district that is frustrated. And he should be able to speak freely and express the frustration. I ask the bill be read at length. Thank you.
Okay, that's the proper motion. The bill will be read at length.
He's got it.
First regular session, 73rd General Assembly, State of Colorado introduced. LLS No. 21-035-2.01 Dwayne Gall X 4335 House Bill 21 to 1238. House Committees, Senate Committees, Energy and Environment. A bill for an act. 101 concerning the modernization of gas energy efficiency. 102 programs. Bill summary. Note, this summary applies to this bill as introduced and does not reflect any amendments that may be subsequently adopted. If this bill passes third reading in the House of Introduction, a bill summary that applies to the re-engrossed version of this bill will be available at http://leg.colorado.government. The bill updates the methods used to determine the cost-effectiveness of demand-side management, DSM, programs of public utilities selling natural gas at retail, including requiring that the calculation of future benefits reflects the avoided costs to ratepayers resulting from reduced consumption of natural gas. The bill specifies that the calculation must be based on reliable estimates and published. House sponsorship Burnett, Kennedy. Senate sponsorship Hansen. Shading denotes House amendment. Double underlining denotes Senate amendment. Capital letters or bold and italic numbers indicate new material to be added to existing statute. Dashes through the words indicate deletions from existing statute. Scientific data and must include methane emissions. In addition, the bill adds savings targets and budget control mechanisms to the approval process for gas DSM programs, paralleling the existing process that applies to electric DSM programs. 1. Be it enacted by the General Assembly of the State of Colorado. 2. Section 1. Legislative Declaration. 1. The General Assembly 3 finds and determines that 4. A. Demand-side management, DSM, programs promote energy 5. Efficiency, saving utility ratepayers money and reducing energy 6. Consumption over a long period for a relatively small initial investment. 7. B. Colorado law gives public utilities incentives to invest in DSM 8 programs but conditions those incentives on a requirement that the DSM 9 programs, taken as a whole, be cost-effective. 10. C. Changes to the metrics used to Determine the 11 cost effectiveness of DSM programs will more realistically account for 12 their value, benefiting ratepayers economically while simultaneously 13 reducing the greenhouse gas emissions of Colorado's gas utilities, and 14, D, as a result of legislation passed in 2019, the Colorado Air 15 Quality Control Commission is undertaking statewide assessments of 16 greenhouse gas emissions, including emissions of not only carbon dioxide, 17 but also methane, which is often released in the process of natural gas 18 production and distribution, and other greenhouse gases in the calculation 19 of environmental costs. Leading climate scientists state that mitigation of 20 short-lived pollutants such as methane can play a significant role in 21 slowing the rate of climate change while producing many co-benefits for 22 human health and food security. 23, 2, therefore, the General Assembly declares that it is in the public. -2 HB 21-1238. 1 Interest 2, 2a, update the methods used to determine the cost effectiveness 3 of gas DSM programs. 4, b, incorporate into the cost effectiveness determinations the most 5 recent and accurate assessments of the social costs of greenhouse gas 6 emissions, including carbon dioxide and methane emissions, while 7 recognizing that future assessments likely will provide still more 8 favorable estimates of the long-term value of current investments in gas 9 DSM programs. 10, c, ensure that a significant portion of gas DSM program 11 expenditures be targeted to improve energy efficiency in income qualified 12 households. 13, d, direct the Public Utilities Commission to incorporate into its 14 evaluations of DSM program the costs of greenhouse gas emissions, 15 including the social cost of carbon dioxide and methane leaked or emitted 16 into the atmosphere, and 17, e, direct the Public Utilities Commission to set savings targets for 18 gas utility DSM plans based upon the maximum cost-effective and 19 achievable level of savings. 20 Section 2. In Colorado Revised Statutes, 40-1-102, amend 5, 21 and 6, and add 1.1, as follows, 2240-1-102. Definitions. As used in Articles 1 to 7 of this Title 40, 23 unless the context otherwise requires, 24, 1.1, behind-the-meter thermal renewable source means 25 a technology through which a utility customer accesses a 26 renewable heating or cooling source to serve the customer's 27 electric or heating needs for one or more end uses, including -3 HB 21-1238. 1 water heating, space heating, or cooling, or industrial processes. 2 if the use of that technology. 3, A, reduces system costs for the utilities customers. 4, B, reduces net greenhouse gas emissions. Or 5, C, provides for a more efficient utilization of grid 6 resources. 7, 5, A, cost effective, with reference to a natural gas or electric 8 demand side management program or related measure, means having a 9 benefit cost ratio greater than 1. 10, B, in calculating the benefit cost ratio, the benefits shall must 11 include, but are not limited to in a base case, the following, as 12 applicable. 13, I, the utilities avoided generation, transmission, distribution, 14 capacity, and energy costs. 15, 2, the valuation of avoided greenhouse gas emissions. 16 calculated as the social cost of carbon dioxide in accordance 17 with sections 40-3.2-106 and 40-3.2-107 and the social cost of 18 methane in accordance with section 40-3.2-107 as separate items. 19 in the cost benefit calculation, and 23, none of the other costs or benefits as determined by the 21 Commission. 22, C, in calculating the benefit cost ratio, the costs shall must 23 include but are not limited to utility and participant expenditures for the 24 following, as applicable. 25, I, program design, administration, evaluation, advertising, and 26 promotion. 27, 2, customer education. -4 HB 21-1238. 1, 3, incentives and discounts. 2, 4, capital costs, and 3, B, operation and maintenance expenses. 4, D, in addition to the base case analysis of 5 cost effectiveness described in subsection 5B of this section, 6A utility may provide a case that does not include the social 7 costs of methane and carbon dioxide. 8, 6, demand side management programs or DSM programs. 9 means any of the following programs or combination of 10 programs. 11, A, energy efficiency, including weatherization, and 12, insulation. 13, B, conservation. 14, C, load management. 15, D, beneficial electrification, as defined in section 1640-3.2-106, 6A, and 17, E, demand response programs, or any combination of these 18 programs. 19 Section 3. In Colorado Revised Statutes, 40-2-123, amend 21B, as follows, 2140-2-123. New energy technologies, consideration by 22 Commission, incentives, definitions, legislative declaration. 23.1b, I, the Commission may give consideration to the likelihood of 24 new environmental regulation and the risk of higher future costs. 25 associated with the emission of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide. 26 and methane when it considers utility proposals to acquire resources. 27 where utilities eliminate or reduce carbon dioxide emissions through the HB 21-1238. 1. Use of capture and sequestration. The Commission may consider the 2 benefits of using carbon dioxide for enhanced oil recovery or other uses. 3. Or to implement DSM programs. The Commission shall 4. Collaborate with the Air Quality Control Commission to ensure 5. That any emissions reductions achieved through gas DSM 6 programs are appropriately accounted for in meeting the state's 7 greenhouse gas reduction goals. 8. 2. For purposes of evaluating a gas DSM program. Or 9. Measure that incorporates innovative technologies with the 10 potential for significant impact, such as energy-saving. 11. Technologies that go beyond what is achievable using energy. 12. Efficiency measures alone. The Commission may find the program 13 or measure cost-effective, notwithstanding Section 40-1-10214. 5a. Even if its initial benefit-cost ratio is not greater than 1:15 when calculated using currently available data. And 16. Assumptions. 17. Section 4. In Colorado Revised Statutes, 40-3.2-103, amend. 18. 1, 2, introductory portion, 2a, 2b, and 3, and add 2.5 and 19, 3.5, as follows, 2040-3.2-103. Gas Distribution Utility Demand-Side Management 21 Programs, Recovery of Costs. 1. On or before September 30th, 2007, the 22 Commission shall commence a rulemaking proceeding, as described in 23 subsection 2 of this section commencing in 2022 and no less 24 frequently than every 4 years thereafter. Each 25 investor-owned gas distribution utility, also referred to in this 26 section as a gas utility, shall file an application to open a DSM 27 strategic issues proceeding to develop expenditure and energy. 6 HB 21-1238. 1. Savings targets to be achieved by the gas utility, taking into account its potential for cost-effective demand-side 3 management as well as Colorado's greenhouse gas reduction 4 goals. The Commission shall, as part of approving a gas utility's 5 gas DSM strategic issues application, also develop an estimated 6 DSM budget commensurate with natural gas savings targets, funding 7 and cost recovery mechanisms, and a financial bonus structure for 8 demand-side management DSM programs implemented by a 9 investor-owned gas distribution utility, also referred to in this section as 10 a gas utility. 11. 2. As part of the rulemaking proceeding development of 12 targets, mechanisms, and a bonus structure required by subsection 13, 1, of this section, the Commission shall, 14a, adopt an estimated budget for DSM program expenditure 15 targets equal to at least 0.5% of a natural gas utility's 16 revenues from its full-service customers in the year prior to setting such 17 targets expenditures commensurate with the energy savings 18 targets established by the Commission. 19b. Establish DSM program energy savings targets that are 20 commensurate with program expenditures and expressed in terms of an 21 amount of gas saved per unit of program expenditures consistent with 22 achieving the greenhouse gas reduction targets in section 2325-7-102. 2g. Take into consideration new clean energy 24 technologies as contemplated by section 40-2-123, and reflect 25 the maximum cost-effective and achievable natural gas savings 26 potential for the gas utility consistent with the needs of its 27 full-service customers. 7 HB 21-1238. 1. 2.5. For gas utilities with fewer than 252,000 full-service customers, the Commission may establish 3 energy savings targets, a budget for gas DSM program 4 expenditures, funding and cost recovery mechanisms, and a 5 financial bonus structure in the same proceeding in which the 6 utilities gas DSM program plan is submitted for approval. 7. 3. Within 12 months after the completion of the rulemaking 8 required by development of the targets, mechanisms, and bonus 9 structure as described in subsection 1 of this section, each gas 10 utility shall, 11a, develop and begin implementing a set of cost-effective gas 12 DSM programs for its full-service customers. Such programs shall be of 13 the gas utilities choosing, taking into account the characteristics of the gas 14 utility and its customers. 1 or more programs may program plans 15 designed to meet or exceed the energy savings targets 16 established by the Commission.
Representative Sandrich.
17.
Thank you,
2.
Mr. Chair.
Gas
I remove the
DSM program
request.
plans may be combined with electric.
Hold on just a second.
18 DSM program plans, beneficial electrification plans, or other 19 plans that reduce energy consumption or greenhouse gas.
I withdraw the request to read the bill.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, Representative Woog.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to rise today in support of my district, House 63, which covers Weld County. And in Weld County, in the years past, we have relied on natural gas. It has been good for the state. It has been good for our county. In fact, Weld County is debt-free, and I think we could learn something from Weld County. When we move forward and talk about climate change, and we're worried about climate change, we need to be a lot more pragmatic about this. This has been talked about. We cannot push forward with this bill and with others that we're seeing without a balance. Many in my caucus, we're not attacking other industries. We believe we can get along and rely on multiple sources of energy. We believe it is best for Colorado. In Weld County, many thousands of people, families, they've been able to put their kids through college. They've been able to go on vacations. They rely on this great industry that provides a very good income, and they've been happy here in Colorado to raise their family and put money back into this economy. This is absolutely not the way forward at this rapid pace. I think many, if not all of us, can agree we want to limit pollution. That's a very important part of moving forward. Whether it's government involvement is another question, but we know there's pollution. This is not going to do it. The data is out there, the studies are out there. By essentially attacking the natural gas industry and moving forward with these policies will ultimately be bad for Colorado, and it will certainly be bad for House District 63 in Weld County. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Yes. Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And may the 4th be with you.
That's a $5 fine. Bad joke. Just
I'll
kidding.
gladly pay that, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Holtorf. So I rise in opposition to this bill, but specifically I wanted to talk about an amendment that was added during committee. So I can't talk about, okay. So within the amendment that was added in the committee report that's now part of the bill, it talks about a couple of different things that are not directly related to the modernization of natural energy efficiency programs. Number one, that contractors must participate in a apprenticeship program. I mean, that definitely doesn't have anything to do with the efficiency of natural gas or where we're going as a state. It also impacted buildings over 20,000 square feet. I think it's important that we understand why is that a certain cutoff. I don't think it was really clear as to why that was very specific. As the bill as a whole, one thing that I appreciated hearing as the bill was being read at length, I was able to sit back and hear it a second time, is if you turn to page 3, when we talk about behind the meter thermal renewal sources, it goes on to say a technology through which a utility customer accesses a renewable heating or cooling source. And so what we're talking about here are things like solar and wind power, because those are really what's considered renewable legally here in Colorado, because we have not added hydropower, which really should be considered a renewable energy source, or nuclear, which also should be considered a clean source, albeit if it may not necessarily be renewable. But in speaking to one of those renewable sources that's obviously included here, when we talk about wind turbines, one thing that I think we need to be very, very careful of is the shift away from natural gas to things like wind, more wind, that we're actually looking downstream a bit further and say, okay, what are the costs going to be to the state in terms of the life of these turbines? And does the state have a utility plan to address this? In Minnesota, for example, Xcel Energy had to submit certain documents that were required by their PUC, and they were asked what would the costs be of disposing of these retiring turbines. And what they reported to the state in Minnesota was $410,000 to $532,000 per turbine. Well, if Colorado is going to be fully at capacity, say at 2050, and by capacity I mean fully renewable, then that means that wind turbines that were started and erected before 2020 are going to be decommissioned by 2050. So we're going to have an entire fleet of turbines that are going to need to be replaced. That's not to say that these wind turbines won't be overhauled in the meantime, because we can take a lesson from the airline industry. I mean, many of us are flying on pretty old planes. I mean, some of them are 20 or 30 years old, and they get overhauled all the time. That's what's going to happen with many of these wind turbines. But as you approach a certain date and time, 50 years from now, 30 years from now, it really is not feasible to have that hardware still existing out there. So we're going to have to decommission that. So assuming the cost that I just quoted to you, that would mean over $1 billion is what Colorado would be facing 30 years from now for decommissioning of these turbines. And I don't think it's very clear that we have a entirely robust plan for recycling or reusing these component parts. I know that when the companies have to submit their plans to the PUC, that is included, but the price is far too low to even address the recycling, much less the disposal of the component parts when these turbines get decommissioned. So that's one thing I'm really concerned about that the bill does not include, because that's part of this full pipeline as we're going forward. And if we're really going to look after our environment in addition to the power systems that we've created, then we really need to look at what is the future going to look like. And I do not believe this bill factors that in at all. So I would ask for a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Yes, Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Soper, I just want you to be aware I did cover that fine, so if I incur one at this time, please step up and help me out. As we were reading at length, I want to point out the big issue that is presented here. Page 6 and page 7. What we continue to do through legislation, and many of us do it without any consideration, we put the burden of our regulation, our rules, onto companies and businesses. And we say to them, well, we want this and we want that, and you're going to have 100% of the burden of that cost. So more government mandates on the energy sector, in this case, the gas utility. Each investor-owned gas distribution utility. Well, without investors in companies, we wouldn't have all the companies we have in this country. Thank God for investors and investor owning, particularly in the energy sector. But in this case, with respect to our utilities, and that's one of my concerns with the PUC, and if they are fair to all the utilities or not across the board, politics aside. Is it a level playing field? Are they being fair? Fair to the people and to the utilities? Because fairness is a real important subject. Establishing these DSM program energy savings targets. That's really the biggest issue. And I brought that up when I first came to the well this morning. These greenhouse gas reduction targets and how they manage the maximum cost effectiveness and achievability of natural gas savings, all in future time. Now, another really large issue I have, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't speak here because I like hearing myself. I speak here because I have real people in real places in eastern Colorado. For those of you that have been out in my country, you know that the energy sector is hugely important. Now, why is it so important? I'm talking traditional energy. Why is it so important to my people? Well, ladies and gentlemen, traditional energy has and is very marketable. It generates a direct revenue source. Now, if here in Colorado you don't want it, fine, don't have it. But don't restrict our ability to sell that marketable commodity somewhere else. Maybe that natural gas and that oil, if you don't want it in Colorado, that's fine. We should be able to export it. And the companies that produce it, you see, going back to page 6 and 7, our gas utilities, investor-owned gas distribution utilities, should have an opportunity to distribute that commodity. Because, ladies and gentlemen, here's the most important point I'm going to make. For those of us in the country that are trying to make a living, the energy component to the income side, either direct or indirect, to farms, to ranches, to county governance, is enormous. Without that component, you can't buy a new tractor for 25 years. You can't buy livestock to continue to stay in the beef industry if the commodity market is upside down. I am pleading with you to please listen to me in this regard. Our commodity-based markets are a roller coaster ride that will sour any sane man's stomach in our industry, because you win and lose like people at the crap table in Las Vegas. And the only thing that keeps you in this business is the equity that's built and those other sources of income. Understand that energy is another source of that income, and it cannot be replaced dollar for dollar by the Green New Deal. Now, I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and I say this when I'm out in my district, at my own peril, but I will say this before all of you today with 100% sincere honesty. I do desire sometime in the future to have an energy environment that is clean, that preserves our planet, and humans live in harmony with nature and our earth. I do not deny that. And that is a journey that we all must take. And we should welcome that journey. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is a marathon, not a sprint. And you must consider, as I always do, although the end is so important, the collateral damage that is caused to get to that end state must be considered, and we must try to mitigate that. If you want to mitigate greenhouse gases, then join me in a pledge to mitigate the collateral damage to rural Colorado. I will tell you that many a mistake can be made in the cattle business if you've got a little oil or gas on your property. For those that do not, and it's not your mistake of your own volition. Oftentimes it's a mistake that is caused by what in agriculture? The commodity markets. I will take you back 40 years. Thank you. I will take you back 40 years when Jimmy Carter was president and we were having a real problems with the Russians. And we as a foreign policy, and please guide me, sir, Chairman, I'm trying to be to the bill, and I'm trying to make a very important point. Please guide me, because I will need some help. But we decided as a foreign policy we were going to use wheat to punish the Soviet Union. And we did a wheat embargo against that nation as a, well, I'm getting the wave off. Okay, well, I'm going to go back to just saying that a lot of things we do, and I do listen to all sides of leadership, I want to be respectful. A lot of the things we do that affect agriculture as this country or as this state, we don't mean to affect negatively that particular sector. But in the 70s, the price of wheat crashed. And all of us struggled because of the market. Now, I think that we have to be very careful for those unintended consequences that affect rural Colorado and agriculture. I really do. I think we should not do what I was told by a very successful general in my service to the military, downrange. Colonel, don't rush to failure. Don't rush to failure, Colonel. In our haste to try to achieve that objective, be it tactical or strategic, let us not rush to failure. Let us take the time to minimize the collateral damage that may be incurred on rural Colorado, because I don't want to diminish those things that help my people in the traditional energy sector. I don't think all of us here in the capital and in urban Colorado truly understand the nexus that we in rural Colorado understand and live with. It is a marriage that you just can't sever, and you can't sever it quickly. Now, I'm bringing an amendment. I'm going to give it to the bill sponsor here. I bring this amendment, and it's a very simple amendment, as an offer to help us not rush to failure. Then I give it to her?
Just move the amendment.
So I'm going to move Amendment L011 to House Bill 1238. I wish for the amendment to be displayed as I present it to the bill sponsor and the folks down here. How am I going to give them copies?
Just give her one.
The amendment has been moved, L011, to the amendment, Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I offer Amendment L011. This particular amendment will take on page 6, line 20, gas distribution, utility demand management programs, recovery of costs. Instead of commencing in 2022, it moves that commencement date to 2025. Now, what does that do? And I think it's a friendly amendment, although I'm getting the head nod the other way. I do think it's a friendly amendment because I don't want us to rush to failure. I don't want us to run down the green energy road, the renewable energy road, as fast as we can. That will, in fact, do harm. In fact, it's already done harm. It's already done harm to Colorado in many ways. And I'm not interested in that harm, and I'm really not interested in the impact to rural Colorado, because natural gas is a big part of rural Colorado. And oh, by the way, if you think about it, property rights, mineral rights, those rights are inherent rights. And do you diminish those rights indirectly when you try to constrict a market? Well, I would argue that you do. So now rights are being infringed. The rights of property owners, the rights of mineral right holders.
Representative Holtorf, it's your amendment. Please stick to your amendment. Thank you.
Yes, so what this does, and I do thank you, this actually just pushes it back 3 years and says, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to take a little more time so the PUC doesn't rush to failure.
Further discussion on Amendment L011. Yes, Representative Van Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As this amendment speaks to an extension of the timetable for implementation for this bill, I would posit the following. There's no question that we should seek to produce the cleanest forms of energy possible, because we all do want to breathe clean air. We want to be healthy in our own environments. But energy policies that set an aggressive timetable in order to eliminate cheaper and increasingly cleaner forms of energy without replacing them with comparably affordable solutions are most often regressive and ultimately hurt those who can least afford the green energy solution. When it comes to this extension, we want to protect the most vulnerable among us. We don't want them becoming more vulnerable due to green energy costs that are unsustainable for the poorest among us. To be considered affordable, utility bills should be no more than 6% of one's income, and more often than not, energy bills and legislation such as this consume 20% or more of the income for most Americans. So I rise in support of this amendment.
Further discussion on Amendment L011. Seeing none, the question before us is adoption of Amendment L011. All those in favor? I've already called the question. The question before us is the adoption of Amendment L011. All those in favor say aye. All those in favor, all opposed say no. The amendment is lost.
I can't hear you. Well, that's right where...
We are back to the bill. Further discussion on, yes, Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1238 to later today.
Thank you. House Bill 1238 will be laid over at the request of the Majority Leader. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the remainder of the special orders calendar lay over until later today.
The remainder of the calendar be laid over at the request of the Majority Leader. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the committee rise and report.
Seeing no further discussion, the committee will rise and report.
All right. The House will come back to order. Mr. Gregorio, please read the report of the Committee of the
Mr.
Whole.
Speaker, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report as under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 21-1234 is amended. House Bill 1270 is amended. House Bill 1271 is amended. Passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 188 is amended. Senate Bill 247 is amended. Passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Thank you, Mr. Gregorio. Representative Exum. You have heard the motion. There are no amendments at the desk. The question before us is the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Those participating remotely, Representative Neville, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Neville votes no. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Representative Jackson excused. Please close the machine. With 40 aye votes, 23 no votes, and 2 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, just so everybody's on the same page, you noticed that we did not get through the special orders calendar. We are coming back at 4:30 tonight to finish that calendar. So we will see you all at 4:30. And with that, I move that the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until later today.